Romania is a country in Eastern Europe that might not be on the top of everyone's European bucket list, but hopefully after this video it will be. Its capital city, Bucharest, is known as the Little Paris or the Paris of the East because during the interwar period, the Romanian aristocracy used French words to greet each other, wore the latest Parisian fashions, and had architecture built inspired by the Parisian style. And since I just went to Paris right before this trip to Bucharest, I can truly say that the French or Parisian architecture is very apparent in this city. Besides Bucharest, Romania is famous for its history of the famous Dracula and the Transylvania area. It's a super beautiful country with so much to offer at very little cost, which I always love. So let's dive into this 4-day Romanian itinerary. So let's pull up the map. Anyone who watches my channel knows I love to plan my travels using Google Maps. So if you'd like to do the same, make sure to check out this video. Days 1 and 2, you'll be on the road. So straight from the airport, when you land, you'll pick up your rental car. On day 1, you're seeing all of the castles, and first up is Pele's castle, which in theory should take about an hour and a half. But as I mentioned in my other 2 Romania videos, the traffic here is surprisingly awful. It's a 1-lane highway most of the time from Bucharest towards Brasov, and it took us well over 2 hours to get to Pele's castle, so do keep that in mind. Once you get to Pele's castle, you'll park your car and you'll walk up a hill for about 5-ish minutes to get to this area that has some shops, restaurants, and of course the castle itself. Unfortunately for us, they were doing some restorations or renovations, which completely killed the vibe of the place. And honestly, it was cute, don't get me wrong, but it's not what you would typically think of as like a castle. It more so looked like a charming house to me, but here's what it's supposed to look like without all of the scaffolding, so you can kind of have a better reference and something in your head. It's about $15 US if you'd like to enter, which we opted not to do. Next in the same complex is Pele Castle, which was built between 1899 and 1902 as the residence for the royal heirs to the throne of Romania, Prince Ferdinand and Princess Marie. We actually did pay to go inside of this one because it was only $5, but it just felt like an ordinary house, so I wouldn't pay to go in if I was you. In this same area is also the Sinea Monastery for you to check out, and full disclosure, this entire trip, but especially this day where we saw all the castles, I was extremely sick, so I didn't get to see everything I wanted to see or what I had planned to, or even get as much footage as I would have liked to, so I do apologize for that, but I was just barely functioning as a human, so YouTube was the last thing on my mind. But once you leave this area, you will drive 15 minutes to Canta Cuzino Castle, which is the filming location for the Netflix hit show Wednesday, as this is the school she attends, Nevermore Academy. From here, you'll head to the Brasov Fortress, which is a fortress that was built as part of the defense system for the Transylvanian villages exposed to outside invasions. Construction started in 1211 and it opened in 1225. And the last site to see for the day is Bran Castle, which is probably the one you've been looking forward to the most. I know it was for me. This is a national monument and landmark in Transylvania, built in 1377. The castle has served many purposes throughout its history, like a fortress, customs house, and royal residence, but it is best known for being the home to Vlad the Impaler in the 15th century, who is rumored to be the inspiration for the fictional character and story Dracula. This castle is the epitome of what you think of when you think of a medieval castle. It's super cool and has beautiful views of the green countryside all around it. From here, you'll end day 1 in Brasov, so check into your hotel, grab some dinner, and get ready for day 2. On day 2, you're exploring Brasov, which I actually preferred to Bucharest. It's a very small, charming town. It's super colorful and feels like you've been transported to a different place like 100 years ago. It's a very similar feeling I had when I was walking around the streets of Bratislava, Slovakia, but a little bit more colorful and charming in my opinion. Start your day with breakfast or brunch at La Baru Bistro, which has amazing breakfast options and healthy juices to pick from. Then you'll head to the Old Town Council Square. When you're in the square, you'll see the Black Church towering over the other surrounding buildings, and that's where you'll head to next. It's the biggest Gothic church in all of Romania. From here, you'll head to Strada Sfori, aka Rope Street, which is one of the narrowest streets in Europe filled with street art. It really reminded me a lot of Graffiti Street in Ghent, Belgium, although I think the one in Belgium is a bit better. From here, you can head up to the Black Tower, which offers incredible views of all of Brasov below you and a cool view of the Black Church, which is nice to see from a different angle. And then from from here, you can stay up on the hill and follow the signs for the White Tower, which is another viewpoint area. So from here, we actually opted to walk along the stream on the outside of the city wall, which was a really nice walk that made you feel like you had escaped from nature. Because of this walk, we stumbled upon this place called Juno Wine Garden, where we stopped so I could rest a little, and it was honestly such a cute place. I highly recommend it. It felt like a little fairy tale garden with seats inside these like big barrels that almost gave it like a Hobbiton feel. So I highly recommend a glass of wine, beer, or lemonade to just soak in the ambiance and rest your feet. If you're feeling up for it, you can head to the Tampa cable car station and pay around $6 US to take the cable car up the mountain, where you can see the Brasov city sign, similar to like the Hollywood sign, I guess, and you can look at the city below you and get into nature. Once you're ready for lunch, I highly recommend the restaurant next door, where we had the best pulled pork and fried chicken sandwich we'd had since being home in the US. I feel like American barbecue is something that is incredibly rare to find abroad, and even if you do find it, it's usually not very good, but that pulled pork sandwich was amazing. I highly recommend. Now you finished everything you need to see in Brasov, so take some time strolling down the main street, popping into shops, and soaking in the atmosphere before hopping in your car and heading back to Bucharest airport to drop off your car. In theory, it should take about 2 hours and 45 minutes, but I think it took us about 3.5 with traffic, and then from the airport you'll need to hop in an Uber to get back to Bucharest Old Town, which will take about 30 minutes unless there's traffic, and will cost about $15 US. Days 3 and 4 are spent in Bucharest, so day 3 we're doing the Old Town, and we have a lot of sights to see here. We'll start at the top and kind of make a loop around, starting with St. Nicholas's Church. The construction of this Russian Orthodox church was initiated in 1905 and was initially intended for the use of legation employees and the Russian community in the capital. The church was completed in 1909. Next, we have the Instagram famous bookshop Cartereshti Carousel. This beautiful building was built in 1903 by a wealthy family of Greek bankers, only to be confiscated by the communist regime in the 1950s. It's now a space for reading, socializing, and artistic exploration in the heart of the city. Next is the Old Court Voivodal Palace, also known as the Old Princely Court. It's a Romanian Orthodox church built as a palace or residence during the rule of Vlad III, or Dracula, in 1459. It is temporarily closed in June 2024, but you know, it's at least nice to walk by and just snap a photo if it's still closed when you're there. Right next to this, we have Manuk's Inn, which is the oldest operating hotel building in all of Bucharest. It also houses a popular restaurant, several bars, a coffee house, and several stores. Next, we have the Church of the Stavropolius Monastery, which is an Eastern Orthodox monastery for nuns built in the Bran Covanesque style. Now we have something a little different than what we've seen so far, Caru Cu Bear, which is a traditional Romanian restaurant that also makes you feel like you've been transported to a Bavarian beer hall like Oktoberfest. I highly recommend trying some local Romanian foods here, getting some steins of beer. We got the traditional Romanian sausages with horseradish mashed potatoes and the sweet pork ribs with potatoes, and they were both amazing. Plus the atmosphere is so great, but I would say you do want to try to book a reservation in advance if you want to sit inside and actually get that kind of Oktoberfest ambiance, because we went on a Monday night and obviously didn't expect it to be that crowded, but we went and they told us there was no way we could sit inside unless we wanted a basement seat in about 1 to 2 hours. So we did opt to sit outside, and then we all just kind of took turns popping our heads inside so we could at least see the decor and hear the live music. But if you do want to sit inside, you will need to plan in advance. Now we're back to churches with Biserica Zlatari, which is a Romanian Orthodox church built in the 19th century on the site of an earlier church that is said to have been made of wood in the 17th century. Next, let's head to the Palace of Deposits and Consignments, also known as the CEC Palace, because it is the headquarters of the CEC Bank. It was built between June 1897 and 1900 and situated on Calea Victoriae, opposite of the National Museum of Romanian History. Now let's talk about the Maca Villacross Passageway, which is a fork-shaped yellow glass-covered arcaded street with so many restaurants, cafes, and shops. It's a beautiful place for a stroll and to snap some photos. Now, south of the Old Town, we have the Dealu Metropoli, which is a small hill that's an important historical, cultural, architectural, religious, and touristic point in the national capital and Palace of Parliament, also known as the House of Republic or the People's House. It's the seat of the Parliament of Romania, which I'm sure you could have guessed by the name, and it is massive. It's 240 meters or 790 feet long and 270 meters or 890 feet wide. Now we'll head north of the Old Town to Casa Jewel Victoria, which is just a photo op spot I saw a lot of on Instagram before I came, of these colorful umbrellas. So again, just snap your photo and you can move on. Next we have the Sismagoo Gardens, which is a vast English-style gardens with fountains, monuments, and a popular boating lake where the landmark Monte Carlo restaurant stands on a central island. Next we have the Revolution Plaza, which has the Memorial of Rebirth inside of it. It was originally known as the Palace Square until 1989, and it was renamed after the Romanian Revolution of December 1989. Now let's talk about the Royal Palace of Bucharest, which is the ornate former royal residence rebuilt in the 1930s, home to the 19th and 20th century Romanian art. And lastly, in this area, we have the Romanian Athenaeum, in an ornate, domed, circular building that opened in 1888 as a concert hall. And that about covers what's in Bucharest city center. End day 3 by finding food and drinks along Leipzig Street, where there are tons of 2-for-1 drink deals and great restaurants to choose from. The vibe is super cool along the entire street, so you really can't go wrong. Now you have your last day, day 4, which will be much chiller than day 3 because we really only have 3 places further north towards the airport that you'll want to make sure that you check out. First is the Arc de Triomphe, which is a symbol of Romania's victory in the First World War. Right away, I hope you can see that there are some similarities between this Arc de Triomphe and the Arc de Triomphe in Paris. On the right side of this roundabout is the Dimitri Gusti National Village Museum, which is a museum that showcases traditional Romanian village life within a large park. And this was actually something we were unfortunately not able to do because we just ran out of time, but I really did want to see it. So if you have been, please comment down below and tell everyone how it is. And finally, if you keep heading north past the airport, you have my favorite thing in all of Bucharest, which you might have seen on Instagram or TikTok by now, Therme Spa. I highly recommend doing this as your very last thing in Romania to end your trip on a relaxing note. And since it's near the airport, they do have luggage storage, and then you can easily just go from there and then pop to the airport whenever you're done. In this spa, there are 3 areas: Galaxy for the families and kids, Palm, which is the famous area that you see on social media, and Elysium, which is the classy area filled with tons of different types of saunas and steam rooms. As you can see on the screen here are the prices for each section, and you can choose between a 3-hour or a 4.5-hour ticket. This will include entry and a locker and a wristband that not only opens up your locker and allows you the entrance into the 3 different areas or whatever areas you paid for, but also allows you to pay for all your food and drinks so you don't need to carry around your phone or wallet, which I really loved. Please make sure to wear a swimsuit and bring your own towel and flip-flops, otherwise you will have to rent them there, which is about $5 USD for a towel and $7 for flip-flops, which I thought was kind of expensive. From the spa, you'll head to the airport, which is about 15 minutes away, and honestly, this airport is super hot, super old, and doesn't have a ton of food options. So if I were you, I'd really hang out at the spa as long as you possibly can and eat there before heading to the airport to catch your flight. If you haven't already checked out my Romania travel guide video with everything you need to know before your visit, like average cost of things, where to stay, weather, and so much more, now's the time.